Welcome back to another episode of Country Boy Gas Garage, which consists of me and my little garage here high in the mountains of Oregon. Well, welcome back. Another beautiful day here in Oregon, high in the mountains of Oregon, in my little off-grid shop. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, and well, kids are playing in the sprinkler and having a good time, and he's off. And well, what we like to do around here is work on junk. I mean, it's cool junk. I mean, most of you already know about the 48 Ford bus and the old rat rod that we'll get back to, and my daily driver 70 Nova. But what we're working on now is this 1959 Chevy El Camino.
The beauty of the Chevy Shape 459. The brawn of the Task Force line, now wedded to bring you the exciting El Camino, Chevrolet's all-new El Camino. Look. El Camino, the most beautiful thing ever built to shoulder a load.
Now, if you're new to this project, this is a 1959 Chevy El Camino that I got off Marketplace a while back. Pretty dang rusty, but we've been going through it and we've made a lot of progress. We've completely overhauled the chassis, so all brand new brakes and suspension. You know, just stock replacement, nothing fancy. And then we got the stock 3-speed put back in there. And then we acquired the 70s Chevy 350 that's a mystery motor that we did get fired up. Now, once we can hook it up to a cooling system, we need to run it for a better period of time so we can actually figure out if it's good or usable or not. It's still a mystery. Now, in the last couple of videos, we went and overhauled the driveline and got that installed. You know, we also scored away all the transmission linkages and connections there. You know, the clutch fork and the Z-bar. We got all those connected and adjusted, and I believe we've got a working 3 on the tree. Now, today's video is not going to be so enjoyable for me as I'm going to attempt to drop the fuel tank in this thing, and like you, I'm pretty sure the thing is full of rust and bad gas. Not looking forward to that.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Now, we also got another old 59 El Camino fuel tank that's rusted through on the top, but I grabbed it from the wrecking yard before they closed in case we needed it for parts or maybe to patch this one together. Or either way, we should go look at that one and I'll show you what we got. All right, now we're over here in the boneyard and looking through some of the parts. And well, right here is some gas tanks that I've got. Now, this is an old one out of the Nova, and well, this is that 59 El Camino one, and you know, it is rusted through. It's not going to be usable, but my thought is maybe we could use part of it to patch that one if need be. I've got a few 59 parts that I've pulled from Springfield Auto Recyclers before they closed. Actually, these actually came with the El Camino, the hood hinges, so we do need those. So let me pull those out. The weeds are taking over, so we'll take these hood hinges back to the shop. Got a couple extra drums and some other miscellaneous pieces. I do have a rear windshield to a 59 El Camino back there in the bushes somewhere if we ever needed it. A lot of parts out here, and you know, I'm actually going to be taking a lot of this stuff to the 4th annual shakedown. They've actually got a swap meet section that's been growing, and Oliver from Trad Rod and Customs is hosting that swap meet. So, well, make sure if you're in the area, you go check out that show and the swap meet. This is the other 59 El Camino that I had gotten most of these parts from Springfield Auto Recyclers when he'd closed. I know it's pretty picked apart, but there's still lots of good stuff here. Of course, I'm going for the inner bed panels. Mine's missing those. Most of it isn't very usable for us. You know, maybe the bed floor is actually in better condition than the one we have, so I might use that. And we could use the little patch panels after this, but really, if you remember how bad the rust was on the 59 we're working on in the wheel well, somebody already came through here and cut this wheel well lip off of here. Somebody else already removed it to fix theirs, it looks like, because this was in the wrecking yard. And I pretty much stripped everything that was usable off of it. I'm still pulling parts off this front nose. Anything that I could find on here that is in better condition than what's on ours, I'm pulling it off so we could use it. Yeah, I mean, that's what spare parts are for. And I still have this cab that, if you remember, we got from Springfield Auto Recyclers to do a rat rod build, which we ended up deciding we maybe even do a 4x4 monster rat rod build out of it, which that video got 180,000 views. On this episode of Country Boy Gas Garage, we're going to build a rat rod using junkyard parts. So let's go. I never did follow up on it because this was stuff that I was saving for a later date. But man, with those kind of views, maybe we need to get back to this thing. I mean, back when we were doing the bus revival videos, we were getting 100,000, 200,000. Even two of the bus videos surpassed 1 million views. And the wrecking yard videos, we had one that was over 500,000 views. And then that rat rod, let's build a rat rod from junkyard parts. That one reached 180,000 views. But these days, with the change in the algorithm and doing these El Camino videos, I'm only getting about 4,000 views a video. Not like it was. But we're still trudging along and making progress. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pull this El Camino tank out of here. Hopefully there's no bees. Yay. Bees are what we're worried about. And some people have snakes or scorpions or spiders. We worry about bees around here. Yeah, this one is no good. It's rusted through on the top and the bottom, and it's just full of rust. Yeah, so this ain't gonna be good for nothing except for maybe a patch, if that. If we can't get the El Camino gas tank to work, then we got this old crusty fuel cell. It's still good inside, and we used it in the bus for a while. We may just throw that in the bed of the El Camino and run that, save us all the trouble. But first, I still want to inspect that gas tank and drop it and check it out, and then we'll go from there. I'll make sure to grab these hood hinges so we get these cleaned up and painted, ready to go back on the car. Now, I did order a new sending unit for a 59 Chevy if that gas tank's usable, even though, you know, we're leaning towards the fact that it's probably not gonna be, and I could always send that back or hold on to it until we get a replacement tank. We also got a bunch of other stuff that came in, like we got new fuel line. This is I've never used this before, but it seemed to like it'd be user friendly. It's just aluminum tubing fuel line. So we got some of that to replace the fuel line that's in there because it looked like it was probably rusted through a couple spots. We also got some transmission fluid. I believe this is the right stuff. The bottle looked like they've changed, but well, this is what I was suggested to use for that 59 3-speed transmission. It's the bottle that I was shown looked different than this, but this is all I could find, and I think it's the right stuff. So we'll use this in that transmission. We also got some more break-in oil, with the high zinc content in case we need to do a break-in procedure. But the oil that's in there was also high zinc, or I added a zinc additive, but we probably flushed a lot of crud through the motor, so maybe I'll just drain that oil out of there and change the filter and put this in there, and then the new filter, and we'll do the break-in procedure. So a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff, you know, hose clamps to do the fuel line, a bunch of wicks, fuel filters. We got a brake light switch and a alternator bracket so we could get the alternator mounted on that motor. which that alternator also showed up recently. We got a new GM one-wire alternator, so we might have to modify the wiring harness a little bit to accept the internally regulated one-wire alternator instead of probably what was originally on here was an externally regulated alternator or maybe even generator. So we also got a new set of spark plug wires. And well, another thing that I haven't talked about was the brake pedal on this. You know, the firewall bracket that was originally set up for a 6-cylinder, somebody's modified to work for a V8, but the pedal was missing from the car with no bracketry, just the firewall bracket. There was a gas pedal in there on the floor, but it's not for a 59 Chevy. As we're learning, a lot of the stuff with this car didn't belong to this car. It's just been thrown together. And I don't think the gas pedal that was in there would work. There's a floor patch right where the gas pedal would mount normally. So I think that's why the gas pedal is missing. You know, we're running out of time to solve problems and figure things out. So I'm taking shortcuts, and this is another one. Something I could just use in the meantime, and that's a universal gas pedal. You know, it's not really one I wanted to use on this car. I wanted to use mostly the stock stuff, but if we can't get that stock one to work in time, and in a couple weeks we're trying to get this thing on the road, I'm just going to mount this one to the firewall, this universal cable operated one, and that should solve some problems if they arise. And last but least, new speedometer cable. Hopefully that goes right in as well. Alright, let's climb under the car and take a look at that gas tank. Alright, well, here we are again, guys, just laying on the ground. Wishing we had a real shop and a lift, but this is how we do it around here. And, well, here's the gas tank. Let's look. Alright, the gas tank, you know, these El Caminos have a funky looking, like, kidney bean shaped. This is where the spare tire would go. You know, if we're not running a spare tire and we found a tank that we could use, we could just strap any shaped tank in here. And look at the contrast between all the new parts and the rusty old car. Nothing better than shiny new parts on a rusty old car. But, you know, I did kind of come in here and use a wire wheel on these bolts. Put some penetrating fluid on them. Hopefully they'll come off without fighting too much. But there's something in there. It's probably rusty, stinky gas. So I know as soon as I put the impact gun on this, it's just gonna rain down rust all over me. So I'm gonna put on the safety goggles and attempt to pull these straps, and I don't know, I guess I'll put the jack underneath here in case this thing wants to come down quick. I guess before I do that, I should probably disconnect all the connections. We got a fuel sending unit. I did see the ground wires already disconnected, but there's the fill tube, and then you know, obviously the fuel line itself. I should probably cut those or disconnect those lines before we start to drop it, so it's not hanging by that stuff. I'll probably just cut them, and then we'll try to get this thing out. All right, let's try to cut this fuel line. I really don't want it to rain bad gas all over me. Come on. Whee. A little bit. Nothing too bad, though. Oh, God, I can smell that bad gas. It's horrible now that we cut that line. But something I was noticing is this fill tube going in. There was no hose clamp, and then I realized this tube is actually a metal tube. Metal formed tube. So that's probably the original fill tube. The other El Camino over there, the gas tank and the fill tube on that one is a rubber fill tube that has hose clamps on each side, and somebody just cut it. This one is probably just a friction fit, I assume. So when I drop the tank, I'll drop it that side first and pull it away from this tube, hopefully disconnecting it there at the seam. Otherwise I can disconnect the fill tube up there where you fill it through the gas cap, and hopefully that whole tube, well, you'd have to feed it through the frame there, but pretty sure when I pull the tank away, it'll just come apart right there. I guess we'll see. Go ahead and try to undo these bolts and I'll get the jack underneath of it and we'll try to lower this thing out of here. Okay, really quick, before we drop the tank, I want to use this endoscope and look inside and see what we can see. All right, well, I'm glad that this one does have a fuel cap on it still. Oh, it's growing all kinds of biology on here. This is crazy. I don't know, there's blue stuff, white stuff. Ew. Yeah. It's looking nice and rusty. Oh, man. Alright, let's send this endoscope down and see if there's anything down there. Alright. Going in. Alright, we're just going to have to push through. Oh, man. I have to shake it to get that rust off there. It's just built up. Okay. Alright, we're entering the tank. But we got rust buildup. Here, let's wipe off this lens again. Yeah, this is, there's so much rust that we're getting caked with rust before we even get into the tank. Let's try this again. Yeah. This is turning out to be a little trickier than I thought. Yeah, this is not working out as well as I was hoping, just because I'm having to shove it through a rusty tube. It's collecting all that rust on the lens before I can even get it into the chamber to see. I can't get it straight into the tank without picking up all this debris on the lens blocking it. Dang. We're just gonna have to drop the tank, guys. We're pretty sure that it's gonna be rusty and no good. I mean, it's so dirty that it's caking the lens before we can even see anything. Alright, enough of this. Okay, let's get this jack up underneath the fuel tank. So, not sure how heavy it's gonna be. Alright, well, let's see if that works. Let's get these bolts down. I got my eye protection on, prepared for the rust shower that I'm about to receive. We're going to go ahead and undo these bolts, or hopefully they come off easy enough. And, well, I got my safety glasses on because I'm prepared to get a rust shower when we do this. Alright. Oh, it just filled my ear. Hold on. This should help. And of course I want to thank Dave at Mad Ginger Customs for the sweet safety mask. Well, hopefully it'll keep that rust from going in my eyes and my ear. And something I'm noticing right now is it, well, maybe that's penetrating fluid. I see some moisture here. Is that the fuel tank leaking? Or is that some of the PB blaster I sprayed up there? I guess we'll get the strap off and see. Try to anyway. I don't know if this is gonna go. These are pretty rusty. Alright, let it rain. Looks like that nut is just spinning up there in the frame. I have to get a wrench on that other nut up there. Let it rain. Yeah, I think this is leaking from the gas tank. Yeah, we got a fuel leak right here somewhere. Right there, it's rusted through. Trying to get her out of here. Alright. Hey, this mask worked pretty good. Thanks, Dave. And it smells horrible. That is leaking over there. Bad gas. Let's see if we can't start lowering it. Does it want to come down at all? We still got stuff hung up here. Oh, yeah. So it's coming loose from that filler neck, just like I was thinking. I just got to try to maneuver this thing out of here. Oh, come on. Stay out there. Kind of coming disconnected, just hanging up on it. Yeah, that filler neck doesn't want to come out of the tank. I'm going to go up there and disconnect the filler neck from the by the gas cap and see if we can't pull this whole thing down that way. Oh, God. Now you could see how much rust was raining down. That was horrible. And what you can see over here, where this thing is leaking, right up there is the filler neck connection, and it loosened up, but it's still hanging up on there somehow. I'm going to keep working at getting this out of here. I can hear it sloshing in there. If we come disconnected, I don't care if it comes crashing down. I just want it out of here. Uh-oh. Yeah, it looks like it's coming. I'm gonna drop this thing though. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hold it. There. Oh, slow. Slowly. Gently, gently. Yeah. More. She's down. Looks like we got a little bit of damage right here in this corner. And then that bottom corner is leaking, so it's obviously rusted through. And it's got, you know, a quarter tank, it sounds like, and it sounds pretty gritty in there. It stinks too. Alright, let's get it out of here. Alright, there it is. Now, it's not rusted through on the top at all, but we already know there's a hole in the bottom, and it sounds pretty rusty in there, so we're still highly doubtful this is gonna work. Looks a little moist back there from something too. Alright, well, let's get a light and see if we can't see inside. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be no good. Oh man, it's so rusty that I got like rust in my mouth. It's like grit. Like when you're at the beach and you get sand in your mouth, just everywhere. Let's just go ahead and try to dump this in here. And there's a little bit of bad gas in this bucket already, but I just want to dump what we got in there and kind of take a look at it. If anything, that way we can move this thing around. We need to get the weight out of it, figure out what we're gonna do. It stinks. Well, there's about 2 gallons. I don't know if you remember when we emptied out the gas tank of the bus after sitting for 25 years, and it had probably 10 gallons of gas in it and way more rust. And we used vinegar, and we got that tank pristine clean inside. I'm always optimistic. Yeah, there we go. Yummy. Alright, well, the only hole I could find in this is just this little pinhole right there. And really, I moved it all around trying to dump out some rust. And we got a little bit that just dumped on the ground there, but there's not a whole lot of rust buildup in there, like piled up then, like there was in the bus tank. I mean, obviously the walls are rusty. We'll probably go ahead and put the fill cell in here so we can get this thing on the road, get it to that car cruise and the 4th annual shakedown. But this might be salvageable in the long run. Like when I could take my time and get that inside cleaned out, fix this one little hole, maybe reseal it, paint it, and throw a new sending unit in it. This might be usable. I just don't got time to deal with it now. But that vinegar worked miracles when we used it on the bus tank. So once again, I'm going to stay optimistic about that tank. All right, I'm going to go drag that fuel cell over here and start getting it plumbed in. All right, this is it. And it's got the patina that matches the car. Well, we thought this thing was bad. Somebody gave it to me because it got crushed and they thought it was no good. We pulled it apart and the bladder was perfectly fine inside. We just straightened out the metal and bolted it back together, and it works just fine. It just looks rough. We used it in the bus for a while, and well, apparently now we're going to use it in the El Camino. It should just fit in the bed. Right now we don't have the bed floor in there, that big hole that you can see. Here's the actual bed floor, and we also got the other one on the parts El Camino. So we'll get one of these bed floors, put back in here when we're ready, and slap that fuel cell in here. But in the meantime, I'd like to plumb a new fuel line. We got that aluminum hard line that will bend and run along the frame up to the fuel pump, and then we'll run it up into the bed here, and then we'll just connect it with the rubber fuel line and set it back here, bolt it down or strap it or something. And that'll get us by for now. Well, I went ahead and got started by, bending up the hard line. Figured since the car's up on jack stands, it'll give me the best opportunity to access deep under there. So went ahead and started with the hard line. This is the old steel stuff that's all rusted, and I use this aluminum tubing, so it's super easy to bend up. This fuel line is probably just over 10 feet long altogether. It was connected together with this rubber section in the middle, and I separated them and got them out like that. So I went ahead and bent up this aluminum fuel line to the same shape as those two sections. Only having 10 feet, this was actually about 10.5 feet, so I came up just a little short. But I figured, like it was connected here in the middle with this, what would you guys say that is, 8 inches?
I must ask you, this might be too personal, but
8 inches.
Anyway, I'll just extend these rubber sections a little longer to make up the difference. We were just a little short on this end. Well, this is connected to the fuel tank. I'll just make the rubber line just a little bit longer. And same here in the middle. I'll just make this one a little longer. I could always put like a fuel filter in line under there if I wanted. Same here. This is the carburetor connection side. I don't know how much rubber line I'm going to need over here, but I'll just make it a little longer so we can make this work. Now this stuff is, as well as being easy to bend, it'll rub through really easy. It's not very durable, so I'll be using these rubber isolator clips instead of these stock metal style. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this all installed down there, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, we're back on the El Camino. Now it's been a couple days, and I went ahead and installed that fuel line that I made. Let me show you. All right, we got that aluminum fuel line all bent up and mounted into place all the way up front. Here, let me show you. Yeah, got it routed right along the frame rail there and up and over, and right up here to the fuel pump. And it's all pretty much good to go, except for we just have to make that last connection to the fuel cell that we're going to be using, which we're going to mount back here. To be able to do that, though, we got to put that bed floor back in here. You know, what we're looking at here is just the floorboard of what would be the wagon model, the 59 wagon model. So this area down here would be the toe board for the back seat. You know, I guess the back seat would go about here, and that'd be the toe board for the rear passengers. So this can all be replaced and fixed with the floorboard from 59 wagon. But we got the old bed floor that'll go on top of this, which is pretty rough, but it'll give us a surface to mount that fuel cell in here. And whoever pulled all this out, previous owner or his family, pretty much just broke off every single bolt, which leaves it for me to fix. I mean, I understand it was pretty dang rusty. A couple of them are okay, I think, but I don't got time to fix all those right now. So I'm just going to put the floorboard in here and self-tapper it down. Throw some self-tappers in there. There's a separate section over here that is on a hinged thing. I guess they call that the smuggler's compartment, which, you know, eventually if I do put airbags on this thing, this is maybe where we'll put the air tank and pumps, and then we could hide that. But to get started putting that in here, I did come and vacuum out with the shop vac all the rust. There was so much rust scales just piled up in here. I kind of used a screwdriver and scraped all the corners and just tried to loosen up everything I could and vacuumed it all out. Now I didn't get down in the I don't know what the quarter panels down here, and they're full of stuff up in here. It's fallen down through. These normally have some interior panels right there, which I've actually got off my parts car 59 El Camino, but this one was missing them, and it's caused all kinds of stuff to go down there. So that's the last part I got to clean, and clean that stuff out and put the floorboard or the bed floor in here, and then we could put that fuel cell in here and plumb that in. But let's go ahead and clean out in there. I know there's some stuff. Let's see, maybe we'll find some treasures, or maybe it's just all trash. All right, let's do that. It looks like mostly leaves down here. Chunks of rusty metal. I hope I don't find nothing alive. Oh, full throttle energy drink. Yeah, it's mostly leaves. I'm probably just gonna have to put the shop back down in here and start vacuuming. Packaging to an old McDonald's toy. I wonder if it has a date. I'm curious. 1999 McDonald's toy packaging. Part of an old sign. And a bunch of leaves and garbage. Okay, I could vacuum that out. Well, let's check the other side. Sandpaper. And a lid to something. Part of some high power wire. Looking like a whole bunch of leaves. Nothing special. Walgreens bag. Alright, well, looks like it's mostly garbage. Some more old wiring. Alright, I'm gonna vacuum it all up. Get this all cleaned up. There. Okay, I set that floor back there. Man, that fits like crap. I'm gonna try to screw it down, and then that back area is filled with this piece, which has got a hinged bracket here, which is rusted up and it won't move. It's not necessary, but I'm gonna try to free up these hinges before I mount it. Otherwise, we'll just mount it the way it is. Well, I got that other piece set in here. The hinge was completely rusted up, and it was just riveted on there, and there's only one rivet left even hanging on, so I just took it off. It's not like we're gonna be opening this thing up and closing it, so you can see how that covers that up. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw some self-tappers in this stuff and try to get this all mounted down, and we'll just do away with the hinge for now. Alright, well, it's good enough for now, at least to get it back on the road. And we'll get that other fuel tank restored or get another one and get it underneath. But to get this thing on the road and get it to the show, which is like less than 30 days away, and I've got several other things to do in the meantime, so we're really getting down to the wire. But with this all installed, I also ran the fuel line down there, made all the connections, just using a strap to hold it in now. Yeah, got the bed all bolted down, you know, some self-tappers. Got to do what you got to do just to get this thing back on the road. Now I'm just doing some other final tidbits underneath before I drop it down. I was going and putting a wrench on every single bolt and tightening it. Also gonna bleed the brakes, and just topped off the transmission and the rear end with some fresh gear oil. So once I bleed the brakes, I'll be able to get this thing off the jacks and get her back on the ground as a roller. And then we can move up front and get that whole front end reassembled, which, as you can see, is mostly in pieces all over my driveway. But we'll get this front end reassembled and get that radiator installed and get this thing all buttoned back up, get that motor refired up, make sure the cooling system's working. And I got a new water pump, should be arriving today. We'll get the pump pulleys We got a new alternator bracket and alternator to bolt on there. We'll start getting this thing all reassembled. It's going to be at the last moment, but we'll get this thing all buttoned back up and together, get this engine bay wired up, hopefully get this thing all cleaned and shiny, and hopefully by 4th of July, we'll be able to take this thing on a test run. That's right, the 4th of July is just a couple weeks away, and I'm hoping to have it ready to do a test run by then, because that only gives us another week or two to get this thing buttoned up, shining, and looking good for the cruise. Now, I really appreciate you guys all watching and following along in the series, and I'm super stoked. I can't wait to get this thing on the road and drive it. I'm also getting a little nervous because I don't know if I'm going to make the deadline, but I'm going to keep pushing until we get there. Keep my fingers crossed. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to all my members. Once again, guys, I couldn't do this without you. And with your membership, we're going to get these cars back on the road. And if you're not a member, please consider joining. And also go over to the merch site and check out the new merch designs. Find yourself a hat or t-shirt or sticker, something to help support the channel. I really appreciate it. Of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like the video and leave me a comment. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And well, until next time, peace.